This week, our guest is author and podcaster M Lockhart. We chop it up about the importance of community, cultures, and celebrating everyday Black people. All that and so much more, so stick around and see what else Damon does. DJ Prime, play the music. Welcome to Damon Does, Conversations with Creatives. It's your nerd space safe place and where you may find your new fave. I am Damon, father of two, husband of one, and leader of this here Demodcast. My next guest graduated valedictorian of her high school and a sci-fi fantasy author whose stories are written in melanin. Ladies and gentlemen, or wherever you are on the non-binary spectrum, make some noise for M Lockhart!
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad to be here. That is one of the best intros I have ever gotten.
Yay! Thank you for taking time out to talk to a perfect stranger. How you doing?
I am doing good, and I'm just glad to be here. I talk to strangers on the internet all the time. That's like my day job, my full-time job, because I have a podcast as well. So I understand what you're going through right now. I love being on the other side of this. It's always fun. It's always fun.
There's much less editing involved when you're the guest.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice when it's like I get to just show up and talk, and then it's on someone else to do all the heavy lifting behind the scenes.
Now, before we get started with this creative conversation, where would you like to be found on the internet?
That is such an interesting question in 2025 when so much of social media has blown up. As of right now, I spend most of my time over on Threads, but you can find me on any social media, including TikTok, Instagram, Blue Sky, pretty much anywhere you can have a handle. I am C Lockhart Wright, C as in Chelsea, Lockhart Lockhart, Wright Write. That's me pretty much everywhere. And if you're looking for more bookish content, I'm also the owner of the Melanin Library, and you can find me in all those places at Melanin_Library. So yeah, that's me. Also on YouTube, written in Melanin. I always forget that one. Oh, you can also find me over on YouTube at Written in Melanin. That's me. I host a talk show on Tuesdays called the Melanin Chat, where we kind of do what we're doing here. We get to strangers and have a good time.
So are you ready to have a creative conversation?
Absolutely, always.
When did you know you wanted to be a writer?
I knew that I wanted to be a writer when I was 14. I started writing stories on the internet in this little place called Wattpad that was, in the early 2000s. It was not what it is currently. It was a completely different place where a bunch of teenagers, we were just writing stories online. There was no form of monetization. We were all just trying to be on the front page and get enough people reviewing our stories and in the forums just being like, oh my God, homework sucks, you know? And then fast forward, life happens. You go to college, get through high school, you're like, reality. And then around 23, I want to say 22, 23, I circle back around to what I actually wanted to do. And I was like, you know what? This is it. This is you. So 2018, I quit my job teaching and I was like, yeah, gonna go all in and we're gonna be a writer. This is plan A through Z. If it doesn't work, I don't know what I'm going to do.
That's freaking awesome. That's awesome. I love hearing, I jumped in with both feet. I'm like, yes, yes.
Sometimes you have to. Sometimes if you try to tiptoe your way in, especially with a personality like mine, you end up not doing the thing. Sometimes you just have to be like, this is it. We're doing it. It's happening. And we're not going to think about it. We're not going to think about if this fails. It's just like, it's going to be successful. That's it. There's no other option.
Burning your bridges behind you and making it happen.
Exactly. Because let me tell you, if I went back to teaching, everyone would be upset. Me, the students, the administration, like everybody would be upset about that decision.
So when you got started, what kind of things were you writing? Were you writing the same things you're writing now, or did you just involve? Did I don't say just? Did you evolve into doing more of what you're doing now?
It's kind of like a little bit of yes and a little bit of no. So, yes, in the sense of like, I always knew that I wanted to write fantasy. Like, that has always been my heart. That's always been what I wanted to do. But the first thing that I wrote is this little story that I rarely ever talk about. It's called Keeping Promises. And as I usually like to say, it's like we don't talk about Bruno, right? It is a romance novella that it came to me the idea came to me when I was, like, 17. I was getting ready to graduate high school, and I was just like, "What would happen if I met some of these people when we were 10 years down the line?" Like, we're out of high school, we're out of college, how would I feel about these people? Because, when you're a teenager, everything feels so strong. Like, oh my God, this is the worst thing that happens to me. And you can't really fathom that life is bigger than high school, bigger than the people that you're currently around. Right. And so fast forward when I was like, okay, I'm going to do this writing thing for real. I was like, I'm old enough now to kind of write the story because at the time I was not old enough. I hadn't gotten out of that environment. Right. And so I wrote a romance novella, and it follows two childhood friends who've known each other their entire life. They fall out of touch after prom, goes very, very, very awry for both of them. And they run into each other by coincidence 10 years later. And it's just like, oh, just because I avoided some things doesn't mean that I'm over some things. Right. And it kind of follows their story and how they got to where they are and like where they go from here. Right. It was fun, it was sweet, it was cute, I needed to get it out of my system, but I follow that up by saying I don't write romance. Romance girlies scare me, they're really intense on the internet, and I'm just like, I like to write black girls murdering things. So if that's more your vibe, that's what I write, generally speaking.
I, for one, am glad because that's right up my alley. Now, let's go from your first novella to something a little more recent. Tell me about We Are the Origin.
So, We Are the Origin follows a group of assassins who have to work together to save the gods in their realm from destruction. It is the first book of a trilogy. The first two books are out. The third book, I'm praying, comes out around October of 2026. It is the next big project that I'm working on now that I just finished my current project. And that book is the one that if I needed to write Keeping Promises, I wanted so badly to write We Are the Origin. A lot of authors have what they call the book of their heart, and We Are the Origin truly is like the book of my heart. It follows this black girl, and she's just like, why is nothing going my way? She's just trying to mind her business, go about her life, follow the plan. And every step of the way, here comes somebody else throwing a wrench in her plan. And she's just trying to go with the flow. And everybody's like, make big decisions about the entire world. And she's like, this is above my pay grade, really. And she has like her close group of people that she really cares about. Her story just came about when I was in a time where I was just like, I got me, I got my husband, and everybody else is up in the air, right? And so she has like her one person, his name is Jack, and it's really like both of them are like, look, if we got each other, we're good. Whatever else needs to happen, we can figure that out together. It's not a romance because they're already together. Like there's none of that, but there is definitely they're assassins, so there's a little bit of murder. There's a little bit of trying to overthrow the queendom. There's a little bit of problematic gods keeping secrets, and there's a lot of, revelations and just like, "Are you for real right now? Like, really? Really, really? Okay, I guess we have to deal with this now." Very much that vibe throughout. It is fun. At least I think it's fun. There's a lot of world building. One of the things that I was really passionate about was making a world where being black is not a thing to be explained. It just is, right? So I always say this with my writing, everyone is black unless explicitly otherwise stated. And I really enjoyed creating a world where like dark skin is the standard for beauty. So it's like the darker you are, the closer you are to being considered like the goddess and just overall beautiful. And it was just fun playing with that concept and being able to write in it.
Man, that's really cool. I say this almost every episode. The one thing I really hate about this show is when I interview people such as yourself, and then you tell me what your books and stuff are about or your projects about. I'm like, oh yeah, I don't have infinite money. Dang it!
I
Let me,
feel that struggle.
I got a really long to be bought list. Let me go ahead and put you on there too. Take on it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm glad to be added to the list.
And Death Among the Stars sounds like another one.
Let me tell you, I really love The Lady Widow. The full title is The Lady Widow, Death Among the Stars. It's the Lady Widow series, and it follows a grieving widow as she becomes an intergalactic bounty hunter to avenge the murder of her husband. And it is a novella series, so I like to think of each book as like one episode of an anime, essentially. So it's just like you get one particular adventure, one particular character arc that leads into the next one. And I love Kyra. I love Kyra, I love Pia, I love Sigurd, I love all the characters. They are in space, and it was such an interesting project to write because Kyra as a character has lived in my head for a while. But similar to what I said about keeping promises and just needing to live a little bit more to write that story, I needed to live a little bit more to write Kyra's story because she's 32 and specifically she's a grieving widow. So thank God I'm not a widow. My husband is still very much alive and well, right? But it was also this exploration of like, okay, what if I had to deal with that, right? It's like there's all these really big emotions that you have to work through. And for Kyra in particular, as she's grieving, she's left with her husband's spaceship and his crew. And it's just like, hey, you're the captain now. Like that was his final wish. And so she's like, well, I guess we're going to space. And as she's dealing with like this whole other side of her husband that she never really knew about, as far as him being in space and having his crew and things, she's also dealing with her loss and her grief and being thrust into this role of leadership that she's not all that interested in, but also just couldn't stay where she was at. Right. So this weird kind of moving stagnancy, if you will. And I love it. I love it so much because there are some characters who empathize with her. There's some characters who are like, "Girl, stand up." And then there are some characters who are just like, "Look, I get it. I'm here for you. You let me know when you're ready." And so you kind of have the gambit of all these different people who are dealing with their own grief, but also, she has a moment where she's just like, grief transitions. It's not always just sad, right? And Kyra's grief morphs into anger, and that anger morphs into revenge, which morphs back to what I said earlier. I write about Black girls murdering people.
Okay, let me add another one to the list.
That was a novella, so at least it's cheaper than the other one, you know?
Fair enough. I'll go ahead and mention this now since it's right on the thing. My daughter and I want to thank you for introducing us to Tatiana Obi because I followed you on Threads and I saw the First Sister Samurai book or novella, and I'm like, that sounds awesome. And I put it on the to be bought list, and then I ran into her at Gen Con. I'm like, give them all, give them here. So yeah, so I want to so my daughter and I would like to thank you for that because my daughter is 12 and she's currently reading the second book now. So we have you to thank.
I love that so much. You don't understand. Like, I love Tatiana so much. Like, that is my homie. That is my bestie. I love her, and I love her writing so so much. Like, as someone who writes fantasy, and I have been blessed enough to be exposed to so many different authors, especially Black authors writing it. When I tell you that nobody is doing it like Tatiana, nobody is doing it like Tatiana. She's so good at what she does. Like, if let me tell you, if there is not another fan of Tatiana OB on this world, that means I'm dead. I'm dead and gone because I love her bad. Like, oh my goodness, Bones to the Wind, Sister Samurai, don't play with me. She's so good. She's so talented. Uh, I'm sorry. I can rant about her for days. For days. I love her so bad. So bad. So slight plug to go like read her stuff if you haven't.
Or go back a couple episodes. Hey, Future Demond, put the date and episode number here. Hi, I'm Future Demond that Past Demond was talking to. The link is in the show notes. Carry on, Past Demond, and go listen to the interview, and then go buy her books. And then come by see M Lockhart's books and whoever else you see on the show. Do that.
Absolutely. I second that.
What do you wish you had known when you first started out?
If I'm being real, I wish that I had known that being a successful author is less about writing a good book and being able to sell a book to an audience, right? I think in the beginning, I was just like, I want to write the best book possible. And don't get me wrong, I still live in that world. I'm always like, my philosophy is I want the last book you read for me to be the worst book that you read because I want everything that I write after that to be better, right? So the more you read from me, the better my writing gets with each book. That is my personal goal for myself. But there's also the reality that being successful, which for a lot of authors means being financially stable, right? Not even like yachts and stuff, just like I can pay all of my bills and buy groceries when I need to, right? That level of success comes from you have to know how to sell a book. And I wish I had known that from the beginning because the thing is, writers who are passionate, oh, they're going to figure out how to write a good story. They're going to figure out how to tell you something engaging and pull you in because that's what they're passionate about. The flip side of that is how to get you to read it in the first place. So, spending more time on that, kind of brushing up on that. I mean, I always tell my husband, like, if I could go back and like change what I majored in college, right? I would definitely take a business class or 2 so I could figure out how to do this. Well, not figure out how to do this, so that I could have figured out how to do this a little bit earlier on, right? And then also just finding community as soon as possible. People will say that writing is lonely, but until you really experience it and you're like, how do I do this? Who can I talk to about this? How do I work through this? And just sometimes talking to someone who doesn't necessarily have answers but understands what you're going through is game changing, changes your whole brain chemistry. Having community and accepting that being successful is in part being able to sell a book, not just being able to write a good one. That's what I kind of wish I had known in the beginning.
Now, is your podcast Written in Melanin a part of that community building effort?
Absolutely. It's kind of a long-winded story, but so I'm gonna try to keep it short. Um, but when I first started out deciding that I wanted to be an author, like I said, both feet in, there's no turning back, right? I had a friend. We unfortunately don't talk anymore, but at the time we met each other on the internet and we vibed so well. And ultimately, we kept having these really long-winded conversations about what was going on in the world and our perspective as authors. And it was we cracked each other up. And so ultimately, one day I was like, we should record these because other people would enjoy this. And so I was like, yeah, let's do it. And so I already had a YouTube channel because before I decided to be an author tuber, I tried to be a booktuber. And being a booktuber is intense because you have to read a lot. And I read really slow and I'm really judgmental. Just caveat. So I was like, I can't get on the internet and talk about these books and I'm writing books at the same time. That's just not a good look, right? So we switched over to doing our talk show. That was like the first episode of the Melanin Chat back in what was it now? 2019, I want to say. So it's evolved many, many times over the course of the years, but at the heart of it has always been okay, as Black authors, we are going to come together. We're going to talk. We're going to laugh. We're going to have a good time. We're going to engage with the community and we are going to hear, we're going to listen. We're going to get different opinions and we're going to have honest conversations about what's going on, you know? When the election was happening, we were talking about that and what it meant for us. When there were conventions happening that went left, we were talking about that. You know, when there were really big conversations about banning books, we talk about what that means for us and as Black authors and everything else, because there are always multiple perspectives to be had, not just as an author, but as a Black author, as a Black indie author. There are layers to everything. So, yeah, that's kind of where our community building efforts started. And then it kind of grew from there. So, we have our own server now for it. We have the Melanin Library, which is a huge part of our community. Which, if you're listening to this and you don't know, the Melanin Library is an online database of books written by Black authors. There are over 4,000 books on the database, and it just started as, hey, we want readers to be able to find books by Black authors featuring Black characters without it having to be this find a needle in a haystack type energy that it can be sometimes. It is by no means an exhaustive list because there are a lot of books out there, but it is a really good starting place, and it's a free resource for everyone. It will always be free, but it has allowed us to really meet and connect with some really incredible people, authors, reviewers, and just kind of be, I like to think, a staple in the Black reading community where it's just like, there's this here. If you want somebody to read diversely and you like, I ain't got time for this, here's a website. Go have fun.
I love it. Thank you very much. 'Cause I have a bookshelf full of fiction with Black authors and mostly indie authors. Actually, I was surprised when I finally looked through it. I was like, "Oh, look at me go!"
I
That
love that.
it's been a process, but honestly, this podcast has helped with that. I'm like, "Oh, there's another one I need to get. There's another one I need to get," because I'm not gonna, the average person is not going to hear about most of the authors that I'm going to have on this show because they're all indie.
Yeah, that's part of the reason why I started my podcast, because I was just like, I want to platform other authors because, as one myself, it was really difficult at times to find spaces where I could just talk about my book and my writing and be like, this is why I love this story. This is why I wrote this story. So I'm grateful to you for making space so that I can be a part of it. And it's very meaningful in ways because you run into people who you wouldn't have normally met, because it's just like, why is no one talking about how incredible this work is? Why is no one talking about this author? Like, they may not have a big five publisher behind their name, but this work is incredible. Y'all should be talking about this. Y'all should know about this. Don't sleep on it, you know?
What's your go-to order at your favorite hometown restaurant?
Ugh. I feel like that's such a trick question because, like, I'm from North Carolina. We ain't got no really hometown restaurants like that. But I will say, I'm from Greensboro, right? And so I went to college in Greensboro. I went to North Carolina A&T State University, Aggie Pride. And when I was there, my go-to order when we like went off campus was I went to Cookout a lot. And I don't know if y'all know what that is if you're not from like North Carolina, East Coast. But Cookout is it's a burger chain. You cannot go inside. They have like 3 drive-through windows. And it's what you'd expect, like, if you went to somebody's cookout at their house, right? They've got burgers, they've got hot dogs, they've got shakes. It's very, very American, right? And so my go-to order would be and it's still to this day, no shame, a big double burger tray with cheese, cookout style, with Cajun fries, a ranch chicken wrap, and a cheer wine.
That sounds delicious.
It is.
Goodness gracious, that sounds delicious.
And the best part is that, like, back when I was in college, all of that was only like $5. It was $4.99. Like, couldn't beat it. Could not beat it. And they have these amazing hush puppies too. So sometimes I switch out the fries for hush puppies. But I digress. I digress.
Was it something that you'd always been a fan of? Like, was it something you picked up when you were little, or was it something like you discovered like picking out things in college?
It's something that I kind of always was aware of because, like, in Greensboro, I don't even know if this is still the name of the street, but like there's a street called Summit Avenue, and it's basically, I don't say it's the black side of town, but like that's what it is. It's where all the black people are. And so it's just like there's a bunch of different like fast food restaurants and things. And so A&T is literally like right off of that street. My mom and my dad, they both worked in the city, so we were always around Summit. It was one of the couple places that we always went to. There was Sonic, there was Cookout. There's a Chinese restaurant over in the strip shopping mall that we went to that had an amazing buffet, and it was just kind of like that street was very formative. There's also this other restaurant, I don't even think it's open anymore, it's called Mrs. Wiener's, and that was also clutch when I was in college because you could show your student ID and everything was half off, and the hot dogs were already only like $3. It was the place to be, it was the place to go. So, yeah, I don't know, I guess it's just kind of ingrained into you, you don't really think about it until you move away and you're in Texas and you're like, "Where's the food, you guys? I'm confused."
What are you curious about?
I feel like that's such a broad question. I'm curious I would say I'm curious about everything, but if I had to narrow it down, my curiosity kind of focuses and hones in on, like, how do we get here? One of the things that I probably unrelated to anything, spent a lot of my time. My husband is he studied engineering in college, and so we end up watching a lot of infrastructure videos. And so one of the things that I'm always curious about is like, oh, like why doesn't America have walkable cities? And why don't we have like train infrastructure? And like why is everything so spread out and really inconvenient, you know? And dangerous and just like how do other countries do this? How do they manage it? And that kind of naturally leads into like, oh, how do other cultures do things, right? Like how is it different from an American mindset and things like that. So to be succinct, I guess I'm naturally curious just about like other cultures and how they do things and not comparing it to the United States because we really kind of fail in a lot of those tests, but also just being like there are other ways to exist that we're not necessarily exposed to here in the United States, and I just find it interesting, like, "Oh, this is how that happens," or "This is how they do this," or "This is how, people navigate in other places," and why we seem like the odd ones, like, that's always it's always cool to me, like, "Really? Huh."
What's something you discovered in your research that would blow the mind of the average person?
Literally everything. Other countries, like, you don't have to own a car, like, that's just not an expectation. You can just walk places. I think the idea of mixed use, so, like, in America, we have places that, we drive to pretend like it's walkable, right? Like, we have, like, strip malls and things like that or outlets where it's just like, you can drive here and park, and then there are places for you to, like, eat and walk around and shop and, like, there are water features and things like that, and even that's kinda, like, far-fetched, but in other countries, like, they live their whole life like that, like, they just go outside, and there are places to go, there are things to do, like, you can literally pick up eggs on your way home, and it's not driving to a grocery store that's kind of on the way off the highway. It is literally, I have to walk past the grocery store to get to where I live, and it's just like I don't know, to me, it's just like, wow, your whole life isn't an inconvenience of I have to plan to go to the grocery store. If I want to go to the movies, I have to make a plan to go to the movies, to drive to the movies, and spending most of your life in a vehicle, right? It's just it's crazy. The peopling, the community that I think a lot of us miss out on is found so naturally in other places because you're not inherently isolated by every aspect of your life, you know? Even here, like, they have third places. Like, they have parks and places where you can go that you can just exist. You don't have to spend money. Like, they're just free and open to the public because it's safe, because they don't have guns. Like, you're not gonna get shot just sitting in a park. And America doesn't have third places. We used to, and I think that's something that would kinda blow people's minds. The '60s and '70s, right, in America, they're like there's teen culture, people walked places, the community that we talk about not having existed, and you didn't have to have a car if you lived in a city. Zoning laws and everything like that are relatively recent developments, and I thought this was interesting because, like, I talked to my parents about it, and, like, my mom remembers, like, yeah, there are, like, teen clubs. She wasn't allowed to go to them, right? But, like, they could walk places. They walked to school. They walked to the grocery store. Like, they walked places, and it wasn't until they got older that they needed to start driving. And I'm like, "Hmm, so y'all got big and decided to ruin it for everybody else. Look at that."
Third places comes up a lot. on the show. Weirdly enough, like we have to manufacture our third places. Like my third place right now is my gaming group. You know, you have to just make them.
Seriously, there's something to be said about being able to be with other people that we've kind of removed from American society, where it's just like you have your immediate household, but like even neighbors is such a like far-fetched concept in 2025, where it's like you don't talk to strangers and your neighbor is a stranger until you get to know them. So yeah, like my third place isn't even necessarily a third place. It's literally just a coffee shop. And I'm like, does this even count? Because I'm by myself in my car. Like, I don't even think this counts. But it's like sometimes you just need somewhere that's outside of your house to be. It's not very conducive, especially if you're not trying to spend money. Like that's just hard. But I will say that we also live in an age where a lot of people have friends over the internet, right? So it's like community, but the community is so far spread out that you don't really get to see them a lot in person, which is a whole other discussion that we're not going to get into, but it's one to be had.
What should I ask you that I didn't know enough to ask?
Probably what my favorite anime is. I take any excuse to talk about that time I got reincarnated as a slime because it's just I love it so much. I've seen it so many times. It is one of my top 3 anime, right up there with Yu Yu Hakusho. I can easily say that if I have 3 anime to choose from, Yu Yu Hakusho and That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime are definitely in the top one, but that third one I'd have to really think about, like, hard because there's so much out there and there's so much that I love and get obsessed with easily. But those don't have recency bias, so I know that, like, I've seen them all the way through multiple times. The Yu Yu Hakusho intro, it is my ringtone. So sometimes I turn my volume ringer on so when I get spam calls, I can just vibe. Like it's unmatched. It's unmatched. And reincarnated as a slime, I I love it so much because one thing about me is I love an anime that is a flex, like the whole time, the whole time. And Rimuru is building up this little village, and it over time becomes a nation. And he's a slime. And every time people underestimate him, he's just like, "Whoa, pause! I'm gonna stop you right there. Okay, I may be a slime, but you don't want the beef, bruh. You don't want to beef with me." And every time someone tries, he's like, it's like, "You're right though. You don't want the smoke from this little slime. You don't." Because the thing is, the goblins are not the intimidating things, okay? The slime is intimidating. The dragons are intimidating. The demon lords are intimidating. This slime stands at the top of them all. Don't play with Rimuru. Don't sleep on Rimuru. I love that little slime down, okay? There's this one episode in like season 3. It's called Megiddo. When I tell you, me and Ben have watched that episode like 5 times. Just we'll start a whole rewatch just to watch that one episode. It's so good. But also, I love when it's just like, oh, you crossed the line, consequences will be meted out. Consequences will be dealt with, right? I love when a character's just like, oh, word, cool, cool. Burn it down. We destroy everything. I live for that moment. I live for it. It's just like, okay, I try to be nice. I try to be chill. I try to be cool. We are past that point now. And there's this one line in that one episode where the enemy comes in and they done messed up. They done messed up. And so he's talking to the enemy is talking to one of the subordinates, and he's like, "Yeah, I'll see you later on the battlefield," because they've gone to war with Rimuru at this point, right? And the subordinate is like, "Nah, our leader's over there, and he told us not to go over there because he's gonna handle it. So we ain't never gonna meet again, right?" And he's like, "You angered the one person whose wrath you should have feared the most." And I'm just like, okay, I'm composed again. I'm composed. I just love it so much.
Sounds like a slime after my own heart.
Reincarnate as a slime is the one anime that I would recommend to anyone, even if they're experienced in anime, if you're not experienced in anime, if it's your first one, I would recommend Reincarnate as a Slime because it's an isekai, but it doesn't lean so heavily into the isekai tropes that you have to know what it is to appreciate it. It explains everything, but it moves fast enough to keep you engaged. The dub is really great, the sub is really great, and there's not so much fan service that you are like, "Oh, can't pause this," you know? But it's great. And I would even say to a certain extent, it's like family friendly. Like if you have like teenage kids, it's also like family friendly. It's great. I love it. I yeah. Yu Yu Hakusho is also great, but it's also Yusuke's mouth is kind of foul. So, but Genkai, I feel like Yusuke from Yu Yu Hakusho is just like the protagonist that I want more of in 2025. It's just like when I say Yusuke is rough around the edges, Yusuke is rough around the edges, but he's also got like a good heart, but also he threatens Koema 100% of the time. Like that's just what it is. And Genkai does not take his mess. Like, yes, she cares about him, but in that like tough love mentor, I will slap you into next week if you keep talking to me crazy, and has the ability to do so. And I love that. I love that. But it has so many good messages in it. Like when he's training and Genkai is straight up like, see, this is the problem with you. You know, you out here complaining and this ain't even hard for you. You're not even trying. You half-ass everything, and that's the problem. You got to dedicate yourself to something 100%, and you're afraid to do that. Like, wow, not you meeting out some really good life advice while you're yelling at him. Crazy, crazy. I'm gonna stop ranting about anime now, but thank you for giving me space to do so.
I said it at the beginning. This is a nerd space safe place.
Thank you. Thank you.
If you could create a new holiday, what would it commemorate?
Mm. It would commemorate, I would say, everyday Black people doing amazing stuff. I feel like during Black History Month, we celebrate the really, really like well-known Black, leaders and stuff. Like with Rosa Parks, right? It's like, yeah, she sat down on the bus and she's the one who got all of the attention. But it's just like everyday Black people were resisting this prior to that moment, right? Like we talk about Martin Luther King Jr. all the time, but there are other people who are doing the work. Like he was the leader, he was the face, but there are a lot of people doing the work. And so it would be about the everyday Black person and celebrating them, especially also in the writing industry. It's just like, right, publishing is very white, but there are Black authors who are knocking on doors and knocking them down and pushing through, because one of the things that kind of stuck with me is how we have, Zora Neale Hurston, right? But her work was like completely overlooked and disregarded until Alice Walker brought her to the light, right? And it's just like, how many authors and how many works do we have that we are overlooking and letting go forgotten because someone else has not given them attention yet? That is very much well deserved, right? And there's this book, I don't remember, I haven't read it, but the concept of it stuck with me. I saw it on TikTok and it was like, someone has to bring the potato salad, right? And the concept of it is, the book itself was talking about how during the civil rights movements, right? Like you had the leaders and the faces, but in order for these things to work, there are logistics that had to happen behind it. And there's the concept of who's bringing the potato salad, because somebody has to feed these people, right? Especially if we're going days on end. There had to be people organized to like post bail, and people organized to tell people where to go and to pass along information. Like there were whole networks organized to make these things happen. It wasn't just the front facing part that we talk about, right? And so I would love to have a holiday that's commemorating the people who are bringing the potato salad, the people that you call to post bail, who are coming to get you out of the bad situation, the people who are, mending jackets and holes in shirts so that you look presentable so that you can do the thing, the unsung heroes, per se, of what's happening, especially in like 2025 in America and what's happening politically. Yeah, let's talk about the unsung heroes, because I think there's also something to be said about the Black activists who are being very mindful about how to navigate this while also supporting the people who are very front facing in all of this. I think everybody deserves to have their flowers given to them, and some people never get them.
What would you call it?
I have no idea. I have no idea. I suck at naming things. I don't know. I'll call it maybe black behind the scenes.
Ooh, I like that actually. I like that. You said you didn't. You said you didn't. That I like that. I'm gonna write that one down.
Yeah, I'd probably call it that. Something like that, where it's just like the black activists, or not even necessarily activists, but the black people behind the scenes who make it so that these people who are in the spotlight can exist, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because especially when it comes to music, there are a lot of black people who are not getting the credit that they deserve. But that's a whole other conversation. We're not going to go down that rabbit hole. But a lot of people's faves would not be there had a black person not done it first, and they co-opted it for themselves. Just facts.
Why create?
Because I have to. Because the world is a very big place, and trying to live in it, trying to process it, you go crazy trying to stand still in a world that's constantly moving, right? And I know that my experience is unique to me, but I'm not the only one experiencing things the way that I do. So I create so that people who I may never meet, may never have a conversation with, can pick up what I have created and be like, ah, I get it. I see it. I connect with it. It resonates with me. With We Are the Origin, I always say, like, I write books about Black girls who aren't all that nice, right? And I write those stories because it's just like, it's for the Black girls who don't wanna have to explain that I don't wanna talk to you. I'm not being mean, I'm not being disrespectful, I don't care. I don't wanna talk to you. I don't wanna be your friend, I don't wanna be your bestie. I don't wanna go on this magical journey with you. I got my homies. I wanna hang out with them and do what needs to be done, right? And I wrote Brandy because she's the epitome of that for me, you know? She is not rough around the edges, but, like, she's got some hard edges, she's got some sharp edges to her because she's an assassin. But she also has moments where she's fully soft with the people that she trusts, and she has moments where she has to take accountability of, like, "Yeah, I messed up, that's on me," but then there are also moments where it's just like, "I don't care if I'm wrong, this is what we're doing," and it's just like, there's so much duality that exists in Black girls that aren't always allowed to be shown on the page. And I create because when I was reading, that's all I wanted. I just wanted a Black girl. And it's just like, there's more to us than being the best friend. There's more to us than showing up at the last minute and fixing the problem and being the magical negress who just is just like, I have the wisdom of the ancestors to give you. Like, yeah, I do, but also I got these hands that I can throw, and I think everybody can catch them. But I feel like there are levels to this. So, yeah, I create because I have to. If I didn't, I would go insane. I would literally just be so miserable all the time. Yeah, because you don't stop being magical because you turn 25, right? Brandy is 19, right? Kyra's 32, and she doesn't start her adventure until she's in her 30s. Guess what? She's still magical. She's still out here, learning to fight and being the captain of a whole spaceship and, out here murdering people on a path for revenge. Like, she did not stop being magical because she aged out of a certain demographic. I feel like that's important because, like, there's this idea that's prevalent in, I'll say since 2020, especially, that if you don't have your whole life together, like, you don't have, like, your down payment for a house and a college degree and on route to get a master's and be married by the time you're 22, what are you doing? Like, you are so old. Why are you even on the internet, right? And it's just like, when do we get here? Why do we get here? How can we leave? I would like to exit expeditiously. I don't know if that is too long-winded or not, but that's my answer.
All that I care is that the answers are honest. That's all that matters to me. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming out and hanging out with me for a little bit.
Absolutely. Thank you for inviting me. I was so excited when I got the invite. I was like, heck yeah, this sounds great. So I appreciate it so much. It's nice to be thought of and invited and have the invitation extended and to have a great conversation like this. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Final thoughts. What stuck out to me in this interview for us creatives and people in general is the importance of community. I've been told over and over again by a wise man that it's not what you know, it's who you know. The resources of one person are multiplied for and through you when you're in community. You have people who are there to pick you up when you need it when you're in community. You get to help people when they need it when you're in community. It's the reason anyone sees success in any field or endeavor is because of the people they have around them to help. And I would like you to take these ideas with you wherever you go today as you live the rest of your life. Thank you for joining us, whether it's your first time or this time. If you like what you heard, tell the world. Like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube, or go to your favorite podcast app and leave a 5-star review. Either way will help more join the conversation. And until next time, see it, hear it, speak it, live.